So I feel as a father that I'm not doing a very good job. So things like devices, like iPads or phones or YouTube, like I totally know that they're on those things for my convenience.
I didn't really think about playing with them as important until you mentioned it in counselling. I just thought play was just something they do and like I don't need to engage with, but I didn't realise that in not engaging in play, I'm not engaging in their world.
Yeah.
Because play is their whole world.
My children are really happy. They're much happier than I am.
Yeah,
they laugh
yeah.
more, they engage more, they play more.
I think what it is as well, as an adult, you've sort of grown to lose that fun in your life, haven't you? Like, you've grown out of fun almost. It's a bit like Peter Pan growing up in Hook or something, isn't it? Where the older Peter has forgotten the younger Peter with all the fun and all the energy and all the imagination, and he's become this businessman, if you remember.
Kids, they're just...
Yeah.
They've got something, haven't they, where like failure hurts them and they might cry about it, but then they carry on, they try it again, whereas adults, maybe we've all given up a little bit.
Yeah, that's it. Welcome back everyone. We're here, myself and Gary, to talk about the topic of kids and being a father. We're going to go with just an audio podcast and try that for a few sessions just to sort of half my workload yeah, we'll see how it goes. So yeah, cool. So yeah, how long have you been a dad, Gary?
Coming up to 8 years.
Yeah.
So I've got Ellie, who's 7. She'll be 8 in August. And then I've got Jake, who's 5. He'll be 6 in September. And then Jo's pregnant. And she's due on the 22nd of September.
Yeah. Well, congratulations.
Did you not know that?
No clue.
I've not told you that.
I was just talking about my roof earlier on. You should be talking about that. Really?
I can't believe I've not told you that.
That's hilarious. Right,
yeah, she's due 22nd of September.
Oh, wow.
You mean you've been in our house about...
How long has she been pregnant for?
You've not seen a large belly?
No, I haven't, no.
She's only 2 months away.
Is she really?
Yeah, so you must have been...
I haven't really seen much of her though, so... That's hilarious. In all these months.
Yeah. Either I forgot to tell you, or I've assumed that you would have noticed.
No. I think I've only seen her twice though, so and I hadn't really sort of...
so this is quite an apt topic for me.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Yeah. Wow.
And I'm like, what on earth am I doing?
Yeah, it's quite brave, really.
Yeah, and quite a big gap because by the time this new one's born, it'll be a 6-year gap.
Yes, yeah.
And I'm 45. And often I say to Joe, the one thing I want to be able to do up until at least they're like 10 years old is to in some way be able to kick a ball around or run around the field or like engage in physical activities with them.
Yeah,
I know it's quite a painful subject for you, but at least up until the time they're like 10. And I'm thinking at 55, like I already feel quite a lot of aches and pains in my body.
Yeah, and then to go through the whole baby phase again is quite...
teething, crying.
Yeah, it's not so hard. I don't think it's quite as hard as your first one, is it? Your first one's sort of just your whole world changes overnight, and it's just completely different. Whereas the second one for us was a bit easier, I'd say, even though it's still hard. But you at least know what the score is. You know why they're sort of crying at night because of you know.
Are you done? Are you done now?
Yeah, we're done. Yeah, we're done.
With relief.
Yeah.
Can you remember when you were talking about the first one and the second one, and how much maybe a bit easier the second one is than the first? A memory flashed through my head and I've heard this from so many parents. Like with the first, like most stuff is new. You're scared of getting stuff second hand, like a car seat. You'd be like, well, that's not safe. I've got to get that brand new. And then like driving down the motorway with your first, back from William Harvey Hospital back to this area. Yeah, I was driving at 40 miles an hour.
Yeah,
because I was just scared of the road, any bumps or
that first drive back was
absolute fear and trepidation. And then by the time Jake was born, it was a second-hand car seat, and I was going at 80 miles an hour down the motorway.
Yeah. It's all these things. It's like my wife said, her baby book was far worse than her older brother's. Like So her older brothers, there's every moment of his sort of early sort of childhood in there, like, because obviously he was the first, and then she came along, and like all the photo
Like
go down, all the photos are missing. Like, so there is a bit of that which naturally occurs because you're just sort of in the habit as a parent, aren't you, of it? But how do you think you're doing as a parent in general?
Just on that note that you said just there, I've heard it said, like the firstborn, you should pull attention away from them because they're used to having too much.
Right,
And then the secondborn, you should give them attention because they're used to not having enough.
Yeah.
Right from those early stages.
Yeah,
So like you could
that's
already pick up
interesting,
on things we've been saying.
Yeah.
That our number 2 child probably wants or needs more attention.
Yeah.
And then our number 1 has probably had too much, been over-parented, maybe a bit spoiled.
Yeah.
Which is quite interesting. Yeah, how do I feel I'm doing? I would say if you ask 90% of parents that question, they'd say rubbish or crap, and then probably the 10% are lying. So I feel as a father that I'm not doing a very good job.
No,
but I'd be very surprised if I asked the client, how do you think you're doing as a parent? I would be shocked if they said, I think I'm doing really well. Absolutely shocked. Yeah. So there's something there, isn't there, in our self-criticism or low esteem, or where we just don't believe that we're very good parents. I don't believe I'm a very good parent.
Yeah, no, that's it. So breaking that down, is there anything that particularly comes to mind as to why you don't believe that?
Yeah, numerous. Like I could be here all morning. But the things that immediately come to mind are, so things like devices, like iPads or phones or YouTube, or like I totally know that they're on those things for my convenience. Because from the age of 1 or 2, they're almost begging you to play with them. And they want you to engage with them. And that I've had that where, and still now, as a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old, they're asking me in the morning to play with them. I've only just woken up. I haven't got any energy. I'm really tired. So for me, it's easier for them to go on the devices. So I hear a lot of parents saying, "Oh no, my teenager's addicted to their device," or "My children, all they want is their device." But I think it's through lack of engagement that they're on them anyway in those early years, and then the addiction builds up. So it's for my convenience that they're on the devices, because I simply cannot engage in play for too long.
No.
So I've often said this, I don't know what you think about this, but I don't know whether I said this to you before, but my play window is about 20 minutes. So which I don't mind. Like I can engage, I can play a game of Uno or Snap and for about 20 minutes, and then I start to switch off. And they pick up that you're switching off and you're a bit bored, and maybe then my phone's coming out and I'm looking at my phone, I'm thinking of something else to do. They're picking up on all of that. Whereas someone like my mum, I find it fascinating. She can be with my children for about 4 or 5 hours, not be bored.
Really?
Like engaging in craft, play, and they won't be in the slightest bit interested in going on their devices. Because they love it. They love being with Nanny and playing.
That strange is, I mean, it's basically the same dynamic as us. Now, for me, I didn't really think about playing with them as important until you mentioned it in counselling a few years ago.
This was part of your upbringing, wasn't it?
Like that's right.
And I remember it being a fairly painful session. There was stuff around neglect that we were talking about, or abandonment, or like that lack of parental engagement. Like, so I'm critical of myself now, but your experience as a child is you weren't played with.
No, well, not that I can remember. Anyway, I mean, I sometimes think my parents must have played with me, but yeah,
because it was a foreign concept.
Yeah, to you, that's right. Yeah, I mean, it is a foreign concept to play with my children still, and that's why I would rate myself as not a great father, really. I mean, I want to be better for them. I forced myself, having had that discussion. It sort of was like a light bulb moment. Like I actually play is important. Like I just didn't think that play was important. I mean, I just thought play was just something they do, and like I don't need to engage with. But I didn't realise that in not engaging in play, I'm not engaging in their world.
Yeah.
Because play is their whole world.
Yeah, at that age, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And it just never occurred to me, to be honest, until you mentioned that. I was like, oh my God. And then so ever since I've been trying to play more with them, like saying yes to playing, even though everything within me is screaming, no, don't play, because I don't want to. I just want to just have some time on my own type thing. And occasionally I just sort of say I can't play now type thing. But I do try and engage with them a lot more these days, and more consistently, which has, I think I've seen the benefits of, because they're warming a little bit more to me.
It improve your relationship for sure.
Yeah,
but it's difficult. It's hard work, isn't it?
Yeah.
Engaging in somebody else's world. I mean, we've had conversations like this before, haven't we? Like, everybody's world revolves around themselves.
Yeah.
So then it's really hard to enter somebody else's world, because you're used to your own revolving world.
Exactly.
And especially for children,
Yeah.
they're not thinking about you or
that's
me.
right.
They're thinking about play and having fun and their own world.
And they don't understand the pressure we're under as well.
No,
like the
they
financial
have no
strain.
idea. No idea.
We've got to make money. We've got to go to work. Work is stressful. We've got all these things playing on our mind when we're going into work and things like that. Tiredness. Yeah, getting up early and all this like that. Like, they don't understand it all, but all they understand is they want us to play with them. So we have to make a sacrifice, like, and play with them. Not necessarily each time. We don't have to sacrifice each time, but I think you said in counselling a couple of years ago that we need to be more creative. Like, I need to be more creative in what I'm finding to do with them, so we both connect over something. So for instance, me and my sons connect over like some TV programs and playing on the PS4 and things like that. So we're all engaged in that, and it's not a sacrifice.
I'd call that the sweet spot, isn't it? So when you get that area where there's something in it for you and something in it for them, that is definitely the sweet spot. But it's difficult to find those sweet spots, and sometimes they won't want what the sweet spot is. They'll want to do something else. Like, so they might be like, can you build a puzzle with me? That might not be the sweet spot, and you might be like, internally, and you might, why don't you want to just play that game that we play? Or
just on a very simple level for me, and probably not many people can relate to this, but when I sit on the floor, my joints are aching within 2 minutes. I've got pins and needles within 5 minutes. And I therefore I don't want to sit on the floor. And of course, their whole play world is on the floor.
It's a fair point.
And it's getting on their levels important, isn't it? So the sacrifice part, I try and get, when I sacrifice
so you
myself,
feel
I
pain in your body.
Put on the I get myself on the floor to engage with them in that sacrificial play moment. But of course, that sweet spot is the ideal, where I'm sitting on a chair, we're playing the PS4, we're all having fun, we're laughing, and it's easy going. So there's almost two different ways of playing with them, isn't there? Sacrifice and the sweet spot. So
definitely. And I like, not as extreme for me, because you've got your struggles with your physical body. But I still feel that. It might be, so for you it's within 1 or 2 minutes. For me, if I'm on the floor playing, and playing sometimes requires moving around, you're not stationary, especially if you're in, I don't know, they want to involve you in a bit of role play. You're actually having to move around, like you're a character. Like, sometimes I've got to be a Marvel villain or a hero or whatever. So I'm having to move around, and within about 10 minutes, my body is aching, because I'm just not used to. I sit down in a chair all day counting. It's probably quite good for my body to move into different positions, but doesn't mean it doesn't feel painful.
No, that's right.
And then you're like, what's the internal messaging then? It's like, oh God, this hurts. How much longer have I got to do this for? I'd rather be doing something else.
The other day I was playing Star Wars, like with some Star Wars toys with my youngest son, and within a few minutes I just sort of started to clock out and zoning out. You're
not fully present.
But equally, in the first few minutes I was quite engaged, but there's no storyline, and also I think what it is as well, as an adult, you've sort of grown to lose that fun in your life, haven't you? Like, you've grown out of fun almost into
And imagination.
And imagination, which will definitely go hand in hand. You've grown out of that in a way, and you've forgotten it. It's a bit like Peter Pan growing up in Hook or something, isn't it? Where the older Peter has forgotten the younger Peter with all the fun and all the energy and all the imagination, and he's become this businessman, if you remember watching that.
Yeah, no, I do. I very much relate to that because and I find, and I don't know, I've read a couple of books that would allude to this. But we would say that as adults, generally, we're quite unhappy with life, dissatisfied, quite miserable.
Yeah.
And then when we look at our children, they're normally quite happy, quite engaged, quite joyful. So when we're playing with them and engaging with them, we're hit with this experience of, actually, their life is in a much better place than my life. But I'm looking to remove myself from them and go back to my life, which I find dissatisfying, miserable, boring. So why can't I engage more with my imagination and fun?
That's right.
Because it's actually much better for me. Because when I was a kid like them, I was happier than I am now.
And I mean, the other day, I was exactly that. I was playing Star Wars. I was coming up with all these sort of sound effects, and like we were coming up with the story and stuff like that. In the bit that I was actually engaged, and I was thinking, oh, this is, I'm enjoying this, and it's sort of, you almost forget that sense of fun and happiness. And I mean, especially I'm not great at sport either, so I don't have much. Like I've become a boring person actually over time.
And you can find yourself boring, can't you?
Yeah.
Whereas I don't think kids at a young age, like I remember reading this book, I think it was called like Iron John or something. And that it was saying that it took this belief that your happiest period of life, bearing in mind you had to have a fairly decent mum and dad and a stable upbringing, was somewhere between like 8 and 10. That's when you're at your happiest. And then from then on, from 10 years on, like, this is a bit depressing really, but life is like a slow downhill. Like more depression, misery, life's harder, more responsibility, more struggle, work kicks in, paying a mortgage.
That's right.
And like, if I look at the average 8-year-old, like, as long as they've got a stable base at home, like, we're discounting like neglect, abuse, these type of things. They're really happy. My children are really happy. They're much happier than I am. They laugh more. They engage more, they play more.
Exactly, And it's like, how do we return? Like, in a way, my head goes to, how do we return to that childlike happiness and carefreeness? Is it possible? I don't think it is.
I think it's a good question to ask.
Unless you make lots of money, like that's.
Do you think it's money related?
I don't know whether it is, but
I don't.
I think you'd still have responsibilities, but there's less pressure. Like, say if I had, I guess my head goes down the line of, if I had a passive income that was earning the equivalent of all the time I invested in my work week, and I didn't have to work, but it was rolling in whilst I sleep, my head goes to, okay, I'll be happier. Now, is that true or not?
I doubt it. But I don't know, because I haven't got that passive income and that money.
I think there would be less pressure, that's for sure, fundamentally. But obviously, you'd still have responsibilities. You'd still have to fix the toilet. You'd still have to like get stuff done. Do you know what I mean? Like if things break or whatever. So I don't think it's like necessarily you're living the full dream necessarily. But I think there. Like in this day and age in particular, I think there's potential to earn money online that will, potentially free us up and cause us to be a bit lighter in our approach to life.
I think it's also got to do with other factors though, like suffering, being exposed to suffering, like your own suffering, the suffering of others, that takes the edge off that happiness.
That's right. Yeah, because it could. I mean, there's family issues, isn't there?
Things
like
you go through,
and all this,
death.
That's
like,
it.
Takes the edge off.
Yeah. Basically, I think it's very hard to return to how happy a child is. But equally, when you're a kid, you don't realise what you've got, do you? And I mean, when I was at school, people used to say to me, "Oh, these are the happiest years of your life." And you're like, all the homework I've got and all this, like, it's not the happiest years of my life.
But then when you look back, you realise it is.
That's right, yeah.
Do you think part of becoming an adult is that obviously there's something about responsibility that burdens us that we haven't got as a child? I think that's part of it.
Yeah.
But I think there's do you think I don't know how it happens, but we go through this journey of taking ourselves too seriously.
Yeah.
Because there's something about children where they just simply don't do that. Do
right.
they? We really, I think as an adult, it's much easier to get offended, to hold grudges, to get angry, whereas children tend to let things go quicker.
Yeah.
They're more in the moment, they're more resilient. They get angry, but it lasts for less time.
Yeah.
As a general rule, we stew on things, we resent people, we get offended, and we take life very seriously. And
that's right.
Yeah, it's quite a miserable existence for most adults.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and
especially if you don't enjoy your job.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, which I sort of can empathise with. But what I was going to say is, I think we can definitely learn from kids, like you say. I think there's actually a lesson that my boys have taught me about just sort of being more relaxed and being happier and actually enjoying fun again. And they're in a way teaching me just as much as I try and teach them, really. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
there's a little verse as you were speaking then that comes from the Bible. I don't know what you think about this verse. I think it goes something along the lines of, unless you change and become like little children, you'll never enter the kingdom of heaven.
Yeah.
That's quite a challenging little verse to me.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
that is like, to me, it feels like it emphasises the importance of change, but of also becoming like a child, like entering back into some of those things that they have that we don't.
Yeah, that's right. I think as an adult, we're quite headstrong, aren't we? We think we know best in every situation, but actually, why not just stop and sort of think, how would my son approach this type thing, and learn from him? I think we should all have that humility. Is what that's getting.
Yeah, maybe we become too arrogant.
Yeah, that's right. Too arrogant. We think we can handle life, but actually, I think what that verse is talking about as well is becoming more dependent on God and more dependent on each other as well. Cause ultimately, in this country in particular, we're rubbish at being dependent on each other, aren't we? Fundamentally.
Yeah, and that independence, it can be a good thing, but it's also fairly lonely.
Yeah.
And if you're not relying on anyone, asking for help, depending on anyone, you're just going in your own direction with all this independence.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bit lonely, a bit isolated.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. Yeah, no, that's it. So, yeah, no, I think it's... But I struggle personally, myself and my wife, struggle with asking friends for help.
Whereas children don't, do they? If they want help for something, they're straight up.
Yeah, that's right.
They just ask you.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, they've got no fear my boys have got no fear of interrupting quite a serious conversation between two adults and saying, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy, please fix this toy," or something like that. Yeah. It's just like, mate, just shut up.
Or they might even ask a stranger maybe that you're talking to. Oh, Daddy's, can you help me? Daddy doesn't want to. Can you help me?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, it just shows you how cold we've become, really, but equally they do it so often you have to draw the line and say you can't just keep doing that. But I guess what I'm getting at is that we should ask, we shouldn't be afraid to ask and just sort of depend on each other.
Again, you're reminding me, there's this stat out there, but I can't remember the exact age of the child, whether, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8, you could probably look it up, but they have to say mum 9 times before mum hears it for the first time.
Right, okay, yeah.
So mum, mum, mum. So by the time they get to 9, mum hears it for the first time. It's probably worse with dad.
Oh, yeah.
But so, isn't that interesting though? So it's almost like they might be asking for help,
Yeah,
and we're zoned out.
I don't know about you, but I tune them out. It's like a radio channel. I tune out the kids' channel. Do you know what I mean? Like, so all the mums, the screaming, the like, I literally just don't hear them sometimes talking to me, even though they're right there talking to me. I'm just like, but I mean, I'm good at zoning out anyway, like as we've talked about in prior podcasts. But
it doesn't deter them.
No, that's it.
They're back the next day. They're back a couple of hours later.
Exactly.
You wanna play?
I mean, what a perseverance, really. Whereas we give, like when we pray and all this lot to God, we give up within a couple of prayers. It's like, oh, God hasn't heard me. Whereas this is another lesson we can learn. It's like, if we want to pray, be like our kids who are like literally on it all the time and not giving up. It's like they're like a limpet or whatever on a whale's back, whatever the thing is. Is it a limpet? I can't remember. But yeah, anyway, it's like they're just completely glued on.
What? Yeah, and even I was just thinking again, as you were saying, if we ask someone for help and they give us a direct no, and we believe they could have helped us, or like they're a mate or whatever, might be a bit put out by that, or a little bit offended, and then we're not likely to ask for help. Yeah. Whereas again, the kids, they're just, if they get a no off that person, they go ask someone else. Yeah, they won't take offence in that same way. Or they might ask that same person 10 minutes later. Yeah. They've already said no.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so what lessons can we learn from them, really, is the question. I think we can learn a lot from them. And just to try and relax as well, because life puts so much pressure on us. I think we do just need to learn to relax like they do.
What about this stuff about responsibility? Yeah. Like when you're young, you want it and you can't get it. Yeah. And then when you're old, you've got it and you want to get rid of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
I don't want any responsibility anymore. I feel like the amount of times I think about, like, I want to retire already. Yeah. I want my mortgage to have been paid off. Oh, yeah. And I want to, like, take my family on a little cruise with no responsibilities. Exactly. No worries about health or life, and try and have an easy life. But then I'm hit with responsibilities. Yeah. And I'm like, oh. Like, if you say that word, it like sends shivers down my spine. Yeah, responsibilities.
Right. Yeah, exactly. No, yeah, it's just like just hard to bear, aren't they? But it's like the elephant on our head gets bigger and bigger as we go up through life.
Yeah, it's heavier. Like the elephant of responsibility.
Yeah. It's like when you're under 10, the elephant's really small, and then by the time you're 35, you're crushed by the elephant. It's just too much. So hats off for you for having another baby. That's,
that leads me into thinking, what on earth are we doing? Yeah. But if it is about learning from them, we've got another child to learn about. Yeah. And also, in a way, do they keep you young? Yeah. So the young kids keep you younger in your outlook, in your philosophy, and by the time they're older, then they're adults and they're already on that journey towards being less carefree, more weight of responsibility. Yeah. Like, so, I don't know, by the time you're teenager, their lives are pretty hard, and and there's a lot of peer pressure. Yeah, there's a lot of struggle on social media with friendships and stuff. So I want to be able to look at my 5-year-old, my 7-year-old, and this new one coming along and think, I'm going to enjoy some of this with them because their future's quite bleak. Which is sad, really. Yeah. Like, I find, like, in this conversation, I'm thinking, this is quite a depressing conversation part of it, isn't it? Like, it's got a good bit about, like, the children. Yeah. But large parts of it are like, and it's difficult to be an adult. Yeah, it is difficult to be an adult, But, and again, it boils down to attitude, though, because, I mean, I'm sitting here saying it's, hats off to you for having a baby in a bit of a tongue-in-cheek way, but actually it's a joyful thing. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, like, and that I think it will.
And I don't want to take that from you, because, like, forget the responsibilities. There's a huge amount of joy to it, isn't there? So, in a way, it's just about having balance, really. But there's, life just throws a lot at us, doesn't it? And it's a case of just trying to sort of be more free with life.
Can you think of, like, an adult in your head that is a bit like that, like a bit more carefree, and but maybe not necessarily in relation to money, but
Yeah.
like, or maybe, I don't know, but an
Yeah.
adult, where you think, oh, they are quite childlike, and they are quite happy, and they're not weighed down in the same way as you experience most adults.
Yeah.
Like, what's that adult got? Like, can you picture? Does someone come immediately to
Yeah,
mind?
people
And
come to mind.
what have they got? What is it about them?
They're not as serious as me, that's for sure. Like,
Yeah, so
I
it
think,
is that taking themselves less seriously.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and I think they're just more energetic, like as in they've got a bubbliness.
But why?
and
Why
energy.
have they got that bubbliness? What?
I don't know. I just assumed it was personality a lot of the time, or I don't know whether it is just personality. I think of someone like Josh Carter, just name a name. Some people might know. Like he's quite energetic and bubbly, and people are drawn to him because of that. I think. And he seems more carefree. I mean, obviously, he's not fully carefree like a kid or something. But yeah, someone like that is it's got an energy about him that makes him certainly look like he's more carefree and
if you were to
life.
ask him, and let's say you discovered that he was more carefree or he didn't take life quite as seriously, and you were to ask him, what are the keys to that?
Yeah.
What do you think he'd say?
I don't know, actually. It's a very good question. I sort of wish he was here to be honest. Because
I have people that come to my mind too, just
Yeah.
like you do. And I don't think it's necessarily to do with money, because I know people that have money and they're still weighed down responsibility.
Is it optimism?
It might be.
Because I think of people, I think of other examples. One example of someone and I know who comes across quite energetic and like carefree and stuff, and I'm guessing, I think it's actually they're quite optimistic people. Everyone that I'm thinking of is fairly
has got that like
glass full as opposed to glass empty. Like, it's raining today, like. Now, for some of us, we can either take the Eeyore approach, as in Winnie the Pooh, Eeyore, and sort of be depressed with it all, which sort of slightly happens to me, or others sort of can see it in a completely different way.
Yeah, it's like
the glasses
watering the earth or the
that's
garden
right,
to help make plants grow, and it's a great thing, and they align themselves with a much more optimistic view.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, the weather can literally feel like it's raining on you when it rains.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And I think I certainly lean towards the pessimistic sort of Eeyore sort of mentality for whatever reason. I have no clue why. Whereas, again, kids are a lot more optimistic. They can jump off of something high and not feel fear and things like that.
Yeah, and in this weather, they're splashing in puddles.
Yeah, that's right,
aren't
exactly,
they?
Yeah.
And they're running through the rain with it dripping all over them, and they don't really mind.
Exactly, they're not sort of walking, sort of looking really
Head
sad
down.
and gloomy, whereas adults are.
It's the summer.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
I think there is something about that optimism.
Yeah, it's like the Victor Meldrew in us, and from One Foot in the Grave, it sort of comes out, doesn't it, with these things like I certainly feel more and more like Victor Meldrew, and he was a very grumpy person.
Yeah.
You haven't seen it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, people listening.
Oh,
but, So I feel more and more like Victor Meldrew as I got older. That's for sure.
Do you think it's possible for a pessimist to change and to become an optimist, or it's not possible? Is it ingrained in our biology? Is it like part of who we are, our character?
I think there is something DNA sort of wise about it that's sort of fundamentally there, but I think there is a discipline aspect of you again, sort of saying I'm a pessimist. I'm going to slowly try and think about positive things in the day. I mean, me and my wife sometimes say we're going to have like a positive June, is what we said. It didn't end up being a positive June, but we at least sort of talked about it being a positive June. And so, because we often find that we're sort of like, saying negative stuff and things. So I think if you try hard, I think it's harder for a pessimist to become an optimist than to be naturally sort of, an optimist. But I think it's possible. But I think you just have to try hard. Yeah.
Yeah, almost have intentional disciplines that move you towards or challenge you to be more optimistic. Where someone who's naturally optimistic looks at a rainy day and is glad that it's watering the farms.
That's it. Yeah.
Where if you're naturally pessimistic, you feel that it's raining on you. But if you had a challenge between you and your partner saying, "Oh, give me 10 good things that the rain does for the world," and you force yourself into it, you can tap into the optimism a little bit. Maybe.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I remember a couple of months ago, me and my wife having this type of chat and sort of saying, "Okay, what are you thankful for?" And all I could think about was, "I'm alive." That was all I could think about. I'm alive.
That is a starting place.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. Yeah,
because like things can come out of that, can't they?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, that's it. So. I think there is a lesson to be learnt again from kids, tying it back in really to be more optimistic and carefree, and just to try and work towards being more grateful and thankful and things like that. Yeah.
What about when I know we're probably coming towards an end time wise, but what about when we upset or crush their optimism or hurt our children? Like, you get those moments.
Good point. Yeah.
Do you know? Have you seen Pursuit of Happiness?
Yeah.
Where I think the young kid's throwing baskets in that hoop, and he's talking about wanting to be probably a professional basketball player. And Will Smith, his dad, like crushes his dream in that moment. And he's like, "I just want to let you know you're never going to make it." And then he sees his kid's face drop.
Yeah.
And then he realises what he's done or said, and then he tries to reverse it.
Yeah.
That I'm aware during the short years of my children's lives that in moments I've really hurt them and hurt their optimism. And I can almost feel the tone dropping in me a little bit.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like I feel quite sad about that.
Yeah.
That I'm partly responsible for taking their optimism away.
Yeah. And I think that comes because, I don't know about you, but I feel like all my little dreams were slowly slashed in time as I grew up. So then you pass that on, don't you? Which is unfair, really.
Yeah, you're almost like trying to hit them with reality. Yeah. Like, why would I do that?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Why don't I let them live in their imaginary dream worlds for a bit longer? Why am I trying to hit them with harsh realities?
Yeah, that's
you're not good enough, or you're not going to probably be a professional footballer.
Yeah.
You're probably not going to do that. And that journey towards slowly bringing them down.
Ultimately, the people that are successful, just on a slightly different fact, ultimately the people that are successful don't listen to those pessimistic voices.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm doing what I want, man. I'm going to do it, and I'm going after it, and then they're the ones that conquer whatever they're conquering. Whereas all the pessimists over here that try and sort of crush everyone's dreams don't get anywhere, and they're just sitting on the bench, whereas they've not listened to the pessimists and they've gone and done their dream.
Yeah, you're reminding me of a quote. I don't know where my phone is. It's probably down in the cabin. It's a really good one. You got your phone on you?
Yeah.
Look up, it's not the critic that counts. Have you heard of this quote before?
No.
By Theodore Roosevelt. Like, find that and just read it out. It's such a good one, like relating to exactly what you said. Yes, it's entitled "It's Not the Critic That Counts."
Okay, so it is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails whilst daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. Yeah, and that was Roosevelt.
Yeah.
So
it's really not the critic that counts, is it?
No, that's
the
right.
one that's pointing out.
Yeah.
Like, or the pessimistic person that gives up, or they don't really count.
No, that's right. Yeah, exactly.
Even if they're judging somebody else's life, it's
Yeah.
actually the one that's giving it a go. They're the ones that actually count.
Yeah, and I often hear like we shouldn't be afraid of failure, and I think as growing up as adults, you become more and more afraid of failure.
That's a really good point. Yeah, kids, they're just they've got something, haven't they? Where like failure hurts them, and they might cry about it.
Yeah,
but then they carry on. They try it again. They do. Whereas adults, maybe we've all given up a little bit.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I tried a business on my own, and I made 300 quid in about 9 months, and that was a failure to me, and I'm very reluctant to try it again now. And that's not great. I know that's not great, but it's the reality. So yeah, no, failure it does sort of really hit us hard, doesn't it? Whereas kids don't have that as much. So again, a lesson we can learn from our kids. Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting conversation.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
No, it's been very good. Yeah. Thanks very much, Gary. Yeah. No, so I hope that's helped us both.
Yeah, well, it's helped me to just reflect on it and think about it with you.
Yeah. No, good stuff. Excellent. Well, thanks a lot.
Yeah, cheers, John.
Cool. Catch you later.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.
The following has been left in because it might be interesting.
Some interesting insights there.
Yeah.
Maybe we could take some of the things that we say and implement them.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. It's so easy to sit and talk, isn't it?
Yeah.
In a way, it's great reflecting on life because, like, generally speaking, people don't take the time to reflect on life like this, do they?
No.
And so I was sitting there thinking, well, this is so nice to just talk about the things you sort of have subtly in your head all the time.
Yeah.
Because all these things like just rattle around my head anyway, quite often, but you just never sort of like cement them verbally.
And then normalisation helps, doesn't it?
Yeah,
like you're with someone else thinking,
exactly. Yeah,
it's not just me that believes that they're not a very good dad.
Yeah,
or somebody else. It's not just me that feels the weight of responsibility. Somebody else does. Oh, it's not just me that's pessimistic. Somebody else is. Like,
exactly.
finds life hard. Somebody else does. And then it kind of that feeling of being in the same boat.
Yeah.
Then doesn't make you feel like the odd one out.
Yeah, I mean, when you said, "Oh, I think I'm not a great dad," I genuinely thought, like, you'd be a great dad. Like, what are you talking about? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, that's what I thought. Like, and it's just, but equally, then I'm like, well, I'm thinking that as well. So you do get in that normalisation sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it's like basically we're just trying our best ultimately to be a good dad.
Yeah, we're our own worst enemies.
Yeah,
I reckon if you asked your children, do you think I'm a good dad?
Yeah.
They'll probably both say yes.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
So, and they're the one whose view counts.
Yeah.
Because they're your children and you're their dad.
Yeah,
So what they think of whether you're a good dad or not is what counts. Not what you think or what I think or what our partners think. It's what they think.
Yeah, that's it,
What our partners think is about whether we're a good husband or not.
Yeah.
But what our children think, that's about whether we're a good dad or not.
Yeah, that's right,
I don't even know why we don't ask them.
No, that's right.
What do you think of Daddy?
Yeah. I mean, what concerns me is they're far more drawn to Beck than they are me. And, like, they almost give me the cold shoulder a little bit, which concerns me because I think I must be doing something wrong. But I think, it's because of this play thing. Like, I'm not great at engaging. I'm still, there's definitely room for improvement, let's put it that way.
So you're better than what you were.
Yeah, that's right.
And
yeah,
you
exactly.
said earlier in the conversation when you probably listened back to it, that they've warmed to you a bit.
Yeah, they have.
Of
Yeah,
that play.
Yeah, they have definitely. I mean, they are better than basically. I have changed things since counselling really, and this is why. I mean, it's been such a critical thing to come to counselling because it really has fundamentally helped me in my life. Whereas a lot of people who, if I hadn't come to counselling, I would never have even thought to talk about playing or something. Yeah, you just stay in the same vein. Whereas once you get a sort of someone else's perspective on your life, you're just like, oh, okay, that doesn't make sense. Why am I doing that? So it's a really critical thing, counselling. Yeah,
you've got your battle with escapism, haven't you? So and your gadgets and where you go, like that, where anyone goes for escape can potentially become very time consuming.
Yeah,
and that's where you don't realise how much you're necessarily pulling away from your children.
That's right.
So same for me is that, like, if I'm playing golf, that takes 5 hours.
Yeah.
Well, in those 5 hours, my wife is with the children outside of school, building relationship,
Yeah,
playing,
yeah.
having fun, connecting.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
they're probably going to prefer her.
Yeah.
Because I'm away from them during those 5 hours.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
every time you're editing this, doing your gadget thing, you have a YouTube
Yeah.
station,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like you're, like, and that's not like we're not machines. Like we can't be with them all the time.
No,
but
that's
those
it,
hours
yeah.
and hours in escapism.
Yeah,
That'd be
yeah.
what's.
Yeah. But
Affecting the relationship.
sometimes I think to myself, when I'm sort of a bit more pro myself, I sort of think, well, actually, I'm allowing my wife to spend more time with them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm in a way sacrificing myself so she can build a healthy connection.
Yeah, well, I certainly see that in relation to work.
Yeah, that's it.
we
Yeah,
are
work.
at work.
Yeah.
Also, I think the other thing is, like, we can judge ourselves for when we're not there, but I don't think that that's always the issue. I think it's more about being fully present when we are there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's true.
The challenge.
Yeah.
And that, like at weekends, or
Yeah.
when you have got that time with your kids,
Yeah.
how much of you is there?
Yeah, that's right. I think you said something like being present is underrated or something like that. Just
Yeah.
I think it was along the veins of just being there is underrated.
Yeah,
just
yeah.
being in their presence.
As long as you're there,
that's
and
it.
you're with them.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Which stuck with me because I think that is important. Just spending some time with them.
Especially if they just come up and, like, if you're watching TV and they lean into you and you're
Yeah.
watching TV together,
Yeah.
think of the difference of that and then you not being there.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
So
exactly.
that's a big difference.
Yeah,
for a child,
exactly.
isn't it?
Yeah.
If I think of my own mum or dad and the idea of being really, really small, watching TV, leaning in and watching something together,
Yeah.
that's a really different experience to sitting there watching TV on my own.
Yeah, that's it.
Massively different.
Hugely, yeah. And yet we don't necessarily see it as adults. Although I do see it now. You sort of said
We
it
probably
last.
see it as being lazy.
Yeah,
us
yeah.
doing nothing.
Yeah, that's right.
Actually, we're being present. With our
Present.
children.
Yeah, and just being there, which embeds an emotional memory, doesn't it? It creates an emotional memory in their
and
life.
I can just be with my dad, and also it does slightly push against. We always have to be doing something.
Yeah.
Well, no, actually, no, you don't. Like that helps him learn to rest
Yeah.
and to
Yeah.
just be.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's right. Yeah. No, exactly that. No, good stuff.
Cool. Right.
Cool. Excellent.
Website
Yeah.
time.
Crack on. Yeah. That's it.